And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Terrene Oddysey. Now this is a game about, rift in time. There's warriors who want to fight. There's something happening, and basically it's supposed to happen. It's like a 4-on-4 character RPG style combat from, that one from the arcade games to here. So you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to move this guy and attack with it, and then he does this and attacks with it. That's how this game is supposed to feel. It has some pretty cool anime style artwork. Let's see if it's any good. Each player, and this is a 2 or 4-player game. I mean, the 4 players is just 2 people on teams, so it's essentially a 2-player game. Is going to get a deck of 30 cards. Now, the game comes with 6 pre-built decks, but also a whole lot of extra cards that you can build your deck with. Now, when you're building these decks of cards, you're going to have a hero. He's like the leader of your team. And you also have other people in your deck that maybe you'll have some, for example, other different folks, like here's Olivia the Graceless, and here's Pernicious, and each of them has a type. This guy's a beast, and she's a guardian. They have a level. A level is how much experience someone gets for killing them. So higher level people give you special abilities, but they do better for your opponent. Then there's a SP, that's supply points. You can only ever have 4 supply points worth of creatures in play at any time. So if you have Zane the Ender in play, for example, you have him and one other person. They each have hit points, how much they have as attack and defense, and they possibly have special abilities on them. The game also comes with command cards and item cards. Both of these cards can be assigned to someone and have different uses that can be done with them. And then there's also going to be terrain cards in the deck. Each deck has to have at least 1 terrain card. And at the beginning of the game, you start with these terrain cards. Terrain cards are interesting because they tell you how many actions you have. So this gives me 4 actions per turn. They also tell you what experience points on your heroes are. So if I have this and I have Zane the Ender out, and let's say that Zane gets an experience point on him. Well, then I look at my card here and it's +5 attack. So now he's a 40 attack. If I had 2 experience on him, he would be +10 attack, so he would be a 45. And that's because this one here is about attacking someone else. And also his levels will go up too, and things, the different rewards here. So you have to be very, cautious as to what terrain you're going to use, because not only does it give you actions, some terrains give you fewer actions, but might give you really great abilities when you level up. The game starts where each player is going to choose 4 characters that each have a supply cost of 1. They're going to place those face down. They're going to assign to each of them 1 item or 1 command. The rest of their cards are going to shuffle, with the exception of 1 starting terrain. On a player's turn, they have a certain number of actions that they can take. Those actions can be revealing or deploying a character. Sometimes when a character is deployed, something will happen with that character. They can also reveal items or commands and possibly use those commands as a trap. So it's basically when you get attacked by your opponent, but maybe I have this blades up above and I've given them a flare. Or over here I have Sammy the Agile and I have a firebomb. Now, you can't attack on the first turn, but after that, people can attack. So when it's my turn, I can also use an action to make someone attack. So let's say I attack with Sammy the Agile. If my opponent decides not to defend, or they can't defend, she will do 20 damage to my opponent. I will put that 20 damage over here on this card here. If they take 50 damage, my opponent loses. If they wish to block, let's say they block with I Knew the Inferno. I Knew the Inferno has 0 defense, so she does 20 damage. I Know the Inferno is dead. He also does 20 attack to her damage and kills her too. Now, if one of them had killed the other without dying themselves, and you put damage on characters as they take it. So let's say that this guy attacked, Sylar the Determined, and I blocked with, and the opponent blocks with I Knew the Inferno. He does 20 damage. I have 5 defense, so I take 15 damage to my character. And so we put 15 damage on mine. I do 20 to him, 0 defense. He is dead. And since he was a level 1, my character gets 1 experience point. Now, as a free action, your opponent's going to be able to play another character card there eventually. And you will be drawing at least one card per turn. Different actions might let you draw more than that. And playing a card that's face down to one of these locations is a free action. You can also switch your terrain as free actions. When you run out of items commands, you can add more of those for free actions. And so that's going to be essentially the game. There's more to it than that. There are special abilities, like you can give someone retaliate. You can stun your opponents. You can silence them, which means they don't get ability. There are little creatures that can be summoned that will also go into battle with you. And you're just trying to whittle them down to where they can't block and the damage will go through. If you damage someone over their hit points, the extra damage always goes through, so you essentially have trample from magic. And if the same person blocks multiple times, which they can, each time they get -5 to their defense. So that you can't just use one big blocker and defend everything your opponent throws at you. Eventually you do 50 damage to your opponent's terrain, or to them basically, and then you lose. Or you win, they lose. You can see that this game sort of has a little bit of magic in it, kind of, sort of, or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon, and you have 4-on-4. There's some really cool concepts. I love the terrain idea. The idea that the terrain tells you how many actions you have, tells you when you level people up, put experience on them, what benefits they get. That's really cool, because you can pick a terrain and say, ooh, I want a terrain that helps me with attack. I want a terrain that does this. That's a great idea. The different characters, there's so many different characters, and the deck building aspect of this game is big. I will say that I really wish they had put together the cards when the game came out, that the decks, instead of me having to build them all myself, that was a pain in the neck. But, even still, you can really throw together anything. And I do appreciate that the game itself gives you, starting formations for each of the armies, and it gives you ideas for each of them, and then a quick play reference on what you can do. The game doesn't work for me. And I have a hard time thinking why. Because a lot of the concepts of the game I really like. Like I said, I like the terrain. I don't mind the attacker, defender, the basically trample, get through and do. But I think one of the reasons is the game has really slow build-up and execution. Maybe this would change 20 games in. But you start with 4 characters, you start with 4 abilities. That's 8 different special abilities you're looking at, possibly more. You have 4 actions on your turn. So you sit there and go, okay, I'm going to do 1 with this, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that, then I'm going to do this. And honestly, all that takes a lot of time. While your opponent really sits there and fiddles his hand. He only has probably a card or 2 in his hand that he has drawn, so there's not a lot to look at. And you draw invariably cards you don't need. More characters, well, they can't go out till the characters out there have died. And so games are really slow because you're attacking and attacking and attacking until you finally get some damage through. Then they do the same thing. Now, I've seen some fast games too, where one person just overwhelmed the other person, and the other person couldn't come back from that. And the items and commands, the fact that they go away, they're like one shot. I don't know. There's just not a lot of excitement in the game because everything is very deterministic. Because it's like, ooh, I'll do this, I'll do that. It's never like, ooh, I'm going to do a fireball attack that could do 10 damage, could do 20. We're not sure which. And you can't really attack a specific person on your team. You use an attack and they pick who to block with. The whole game was a little boring, but again, it looks beautiful. The ideas sound. It's one of those games that when I read the rules, I'm like, this is going to work. And then I played it and I was like, it doesn't. I also like the tokens mostly. I mean, it's great when you have a -10 defense. You stick this in your guy. The only ones I didn't like were these damage tokens, and that's because they have 5s with 10s on the other side, 15s with 20, and so someone would take 15 damage, and I'm like looking through the pile of tokens trying to find the right one. I'd rather they just have piles of 5 damage tokens, and you just put a pile on, and that's it. That would have been a lot easier, I think. Obviously, this is not for me. And obviously, I'm not doing a very good job at explaining why it's not, other than that it felt slow and boring as opposed to how it was supposed to feel. I will also say that I did think that there is certain different factions they picked, the magic users who have spells, the technological guys, and the guys with those powerhouses. That did shine through, but again, in combat, a lot of this stuff just kind of paled, and there was a lot of kind of cheesy things like every turn, I'm going to stun you or do something to you, and then I'll hit you, and then, I finally got some points through. And it just felt like a fight in slow motion, and I'm just not really interested in that. Dice Tower Judgment, great ideas, but falls short.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
There.